Look, when Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those trophies came rolling in.
Jay-Z told Dr. Dre, just for people who's not up on this, or Eminem, that he didn't want you to perform part of that Super Bowl they had a couple years.
For years, 50 Cent has never really stopped taking shots at Jay-Z. From clowning him for allegedly trying to style himself like some legendary painter, to openly saying Jay's rise in certain elite rooms was closely tied to Beyonce, 50 has been poking at that image for a long time. The tension never fully disappeared. It just stayed quiet until recently. Now the timeline is on fire again, because people believe Jay-Z finally responded in his own way. A clip has been circulating that reignited the conversation, and this time the headline isn't just petty trolling. It's about the Super Bowl. And according to 50, that moment almost didn't happen the way the world remembers it. Something has been quietly brewing in hip-hop for a while now, the kind of story most people overlook because they don't understand how power really moves behind the scenes. This isn't about diss tracks or chart battles.
How do you think that is?
Well, I just
threatened,
possibly. Not even threatened. I think it's just when you take the competition from like our culture is competitive, man. It is, but I think when it goes past the music itself to blocking things in business, then I don't.
It involves two of the most powerful figures in the music business, not just because of hits, but because of influence. This goes far beyond streaming numbers or who's trending online. It cuts straight into boardroom decisions, the kind that determine who gets a seat at the table and who gets left outside looking in. What makes it even more interesting is that this isn't some dusty beef from decades ago that should have faded away. This is about something much more recent. 50 has been saying this out loud for years, and the claim is serious. According to him, Jay-Z used his influence behind the scenes to try to keep 50 off one of the biggest stages in the country, the Super Bowl halftime show. Everyone remembers the moment. Super Bowl 56, February 13, 2022, at Sophie Stadium in Inglewood, California. Hip-hop was finally front and center on the biggest night in American television. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, all sharing the stage. It was being framed as a historic cultural moment.
Past the music itself to blocking things in business, then I don't understand that. Like right now, he's not even competing for a slot. You don't have a new song out that he want to be on the top 10 or top 5, and you still competing. It just don't make sense. Like, what are we competing for?
Then, out of nowhere, 50 Cent appeared, hanging upside down, recreating that iconic In-Day Club image. The internet exploded instantly. Memes, nostalgia, jokes, and excitement flooded social media. It felt like the perfect surprise. But according to 50 himself, that moment almost never happened. And when he tells the story, the reason had a name: Jay-Z. Here's where the power dynamics matter. Since 2019, Jay-Z's company Roc Nation has been partnered with the NFL in overseeing the Super Bowl halftime show. That partnership includes creative input, artist selection, and overall production. In simple terms, Jay is connected to the decision-making process behind the biggest stage in American entertainment. That's why the accusation doesn't sound far-fetched to some people. If you have influence over the system, you can influence who gets on the stage.
Never been no 50 Cent Jay-Z conversations, questioning whether there was a competition between the two. There's a huge difference in energy internationally in 50 Cent and Jay-Z. In fact, his largest selling record sold 430-something thousand copies. My largest selling records, plural, 2 of them sold 5 million.
50's claim is that Jay used that influence to try to keep him out. In late 2024, 50 spoke about this again during an interview run and laid it all out. He said Jay went directly to Dr. Dre and made it clear he didn't want 50 anywhere near that performance. No creative disagreements, no scheduling issues, no polite excuses. According to 50, it was a deliberate move, using corporate power to block another artist from a major cultural moment. When you really sit with that, it stops sounding like two rappers simply don't like each other. It becomes a story about control, about how old tensions can be weaponized when someone has institutional power. One decision behind closed doors can change the entire narrative of a historic event. But the story doesn't stop there. 50 also claimed that Eminem stepped in. According to him, Eminem gave the NFL an ultimatum. If 50 isn't included, then Eminem isn't performing. Not a suggestion, a hard line.
Huge difference in who we are with each other internationally. Let them be fooled in America and think there's a competition there. Because America can be purchased. We can buy it with marketing dollars. You see what I'm saying? But the rest of the world, there's not enough marketing dollars to go around to change the way the rest of the world feels about it.
People from 50's inner circle have publicly echoed that same version of events. Think about what that means for a moment. One of the most anticipated Super Bowl halftime shows ever almost lost Eminem, one of its biggest draws, allegedly because Jay-Z didn't want 50 on the stage. That's no longer petty rivalry. That's a behind-the-scenes power struggle that could have cost networks millions and embarrassed the league on the biggest night of the year. 50 hasn't been subtle about how serious he believes it was. In a major interview in July 2024, he said plainly that there were people actively fighting to keep him out. He even suggested it got serious enough that it could have shown up in contracts and paperwork if the standoff escalated.
Who is punk in hip-hop? His presentation makes people decide to say,
oh man,
you know, because he's big, and his take on it is bigger than the actual art form.
Later that same year, during another high-profile interview, 50 doubled down. He claimed they initially tried to make it look like the NFL was responsible for blocking him, using the league as a shield. But according to 50, he quickly realized where the resistance was really coming from, and he wasn't buying the official narrative. That leads to the obvious question. Why would one of hip-hop's most powerful figures push that hard to block another major artist from the Super Bowl stage? And 50's answer is where this story starts to feel bigger than music.
Jay signed his contract. The big one was with Beyonce.
Mhm.
When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Now those trophies came rolling.
50 Cent frames the situation as competition, but not competition over songs, charts, or lyrical ability. He describes it as competition over empires, market space, influence, and control. In his view, it's about who gets to position themselves as the face of hip-hop business and who becomes a threat to that lane. If that's the lens, then the Super Bowl isn't just a performance, it's a symbol. It's a stamp of validation, a cultural badge that says who belongs on the biggest stage and who gets officially endorsed as part of the elite.
You're saying the success is derived from the marriage.
I've absolutely been treated differently.
The accolades.
Because he's no longer viewed as what, like a street or gangster rapper. Now he's viewed as a businessman, entrepreneur, family man.
And the biggest ones because of the position Beyonce's.
Oh, wow.
Right? You were connected to the...
In 50's mind, the situation wasn't random at all. It was strategic. And that's where this stops being rap beef and starts turning into something colder. This is where corporate power meets personal history. 50's theory is that the conflict isn't about music anymore. It's about lanes. He's openly said that his television run changed the entire chessboard. Shows like Power didn't just do numbers, they became cultural machines. And in 50's mind, that transformation is what turned him into a direct competitor to Jay-Z's entertainment world. At that point, it's no longer rapper versus rapper. It's business versus business. Two empires fighting for the same space.
He's a piece of work, man. He always put somebody in front of him. When Jada came for him, he put Beanie in front of him. And Beanie went back and forth with Jadakiss. When Cam came for him, he put True Life in front of him. And they went back and forth. And he just didn't.
That's why when 50 talks about the Super Bowl situation, he doesn't frame it around bars or popularity. He frames it around market share, influence, and control. Who gets to sit at the top and decide what hip-hop business looks like going forward, and who becomes a threat to that picture? One of the most telling parts of the story, at least the way 50 tells it, is how the NFL initially took the public heat. According to him, the league became the visible shield. The plausible deniability was already built in. If things went left, the blame would land on the easiest target. But 50 insists he was never fooled by that explanation. He claims he knew exactly who was pulling the strings behind the curtain the entire time.
Yourself after a gay painter. The big homie wanted to look like a gay painter.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about Basquiat. He wants to look like a gay painter.
That's what makes the allegation so explosive. Jay-Z has never addressed it publicly. Not once. No detailed response, no direct denial, nothing. And in a culture like hip-hop, silence doesn't calm things down. It amplifies them. Some people interpret Jay's silence as being above the drama, too powerful to respond. Others see it the opposite way, like strategic damage control, because there may be more truth in 50's version than Jay's side would ever want to acknowledge out loud. Either way, the lack of an official response keeps the story alive, and it keeps circulating through hip-hop circles and social media. By September 2024, that same gatekeeping conversation started getting applied to other situations. Two well-known artists publicly speculated that Jay-Z may have blocked Lil Wayne from the 2025 Super Bowl stage due to old tension. The parallel was obvious. If 50 says it happened to him, people started asking why it couldn't happen to someone else. That's how the internet builds patterns in real time. One claim turns into a larger narrative about someone using corporate power to settle old scores and keep rivals off the biggest platforms. The reactions were predictable. One side backed 50, calling Jay petty, a gatekeeper, someone abusing his position and leverage. The other side defended Jay and pointed to 50's long history of instigation. To them, this was just another chapter in 50's chaos strategy. He's known for turning conflict into content, and they see this as no different. As usual, the truth probably sits somewhere in the middle. What's hard to ignore, though, is this. There has never been a clean, official statement that definitively confirms or denies 50's version. No clear, this is false, and no clear, this is true. Because of that, 50's narrative continues to dominate the discussion, and for many people watching, that silence feels loud. To understand why this conflict runs so deep, and why Jay-Z would allegedly go that far to block 50 from that stage, you have to rewind to the beginning. Every long rivalry has a first spark, and this one goes back to before 50 was the mogul everyone knows today. In 1999, Curtis Jackson was just a hungry rapper from Queens with a shaky record deal and a catalog nobody seemed interested in. He wasn't a brand yet. He wasn't protected. He was still forcing his way into rooms that didn't want to open the door. So he did something bold. He decided to rob the industry on wax. He turned the concept into a robbery theme and released How to Rob, a song where he imagined sticking up nearly every major rapper and singer in the game. Jay-Z was included. The Jay line was disrespectful and calculated. 50 referenced Jay's massive sales and painted a visual aimed straight at the Bentley door. It was exactly the kind of guerrilla marketing an unknown rapper needed. Say something wild, make people repeat your name, force the industry to react, and it worked. The record spread the old-school way through white labels, DJs, and mixtapes moving city to city. Stories started circulating about the song getting hundreds of spins a week. Suddenly, everyone in hip-hop was talking about this kid from Queens who had the nerve to name-drop over 40 artists like he was already untouchable. Most of the targets laughed it off or ignored it. Jay-Z didn't. At a major New York summer concert in 1999, Jay delivered a freestyle line that became legendary. "I'm about $1. What's 50 cents?" It was dismissive, clever, and it framed Jay as currency and 50 as spare change. That line didn't stay in the air. It later appeared on an official Jay-Z release produced by Timbaland, which cemented it as part of hip-hop history. 50 responded in 2000 with Be a Gentleman, questioning Jay's street credibility and mocking the idea that commercial success automatically equals respect. The back and forth could have gone even further, but fate intervened. On May 24, 2000, 50 Cent was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house in Queens. He survived, but everything changed. Columbia Records dropped him. His debut album, Power of the Dollar, was shelved, and the rivalry was effectively put on pause for the next 2 years. While Jay-Z continued dominating the industry, 50 Cent was rebuilding. He was recovering, grinding mixtapes, sharpening his sound, and staying hungry. In the early 2000s, the tension between them didn't disappear. It simply went quiet while both men moved in their own lanes. Everything changed in 2002. That's when 50 re-emerged, and this time he wasn't coming back alone. He signed through Eminem and Dr. Dre under the Shady and Aftermath umbrella, and once that machine got behind him, the entire landscape shifted almost overnight. In February 2003, Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped and exploded. It sold roughly 872,000 copies in its first week, and the singles took over culture completely. In Day Club was everywhere. 21 Questions was everywhere. 50 didn't just become popular, he became unavoidable. At that point, the question wasn't whether 50 was legitimate anymore. The question became, who could stop him? Years later, Jay-Z even admitted he saw the wave coming. In a 2013 radio interview, Jay said he warned his own camp that they had a window to flood the market, because once 50 arrived, the entire climate was going to change. After 50's rise, what followed was an uneasy coexistence. They could share the same space without actually being cool. On the surface, things looked smooth. They appeared in the same Reebok commercials, co-headlined the Rock the Mic tour, and operated within the same commercial ecosystem. But beneath that business-friendly layer, the tension never really went away. 50 consistently positioned himself as the bigger force, especially on a global scale. He talked in numbers like a scoreboard was the only truth that mattered. He even bragged that G-Unit sneakers were outselling Jay's S. Carter line by huge margins, claiming 6-1 in his own words. Over time, 50 became more blunt about what he saw as Jay's weaknesses. He openly criticized Jay's approach, calling him the coolest punk in hip-hop, implying that the polished executive image functioned as a shield that kept him away from real conflict. Whether you see that as strategic brilliance or avoiding smoke depends on who you ask. But 50's framing stayed consistent. In his eyes, Jay wins like a chess player who rarely dirties his hands, and that's where the rivalry shifted fully into business territory. In 2004, 50 partnered with the Vitamin Water Company and chose equity instead of a flat endorsement check. When Coca-Cola acquired Vitamin Water in 2007 for approximately $4.1 billion, 50's share was reportedly massive. Estimates range from around $60 million to over $100 million after taxes. Jay had his own landmark win that same year. In 2007, he sold the rights to Rocawear to Iconix Brand Group for roughly $204 million in cash. Both deals were huge, but 50 never missed a chance to frame his Vitamin Water move as the smarter and more lucrative play. That same year added another layer to the rivalry with one of the most hyped sales battles in music history. Kanye West's Graduation and 50's Curtis dropped on the same day. Kanye won decisively, selling around 957,000 copies compared to 50's roughly 690,000. 50 accused Jay of orchestrating the situation by proxy, suggesting that Jay's position at Def Jam helped tilt the advantage. Whether that's true or not, it fits neatly into 50's broader narrative of Jay moving pieces behind the scenes rather than in public. Then there's the angle that consistently explodes online, the Grammy discussion. In interviews throughout 2023 and 2024, 50 pushed the idea that Jay's Grammy dominance is tied more to his marriage to Beyoncé than purely musical merit. Jay-Z currently holds 25 Grammy wins, making him the most awarded rapper in history. To be fair, Jay did win 4 Grammys before collaborating with Beyoncé, but 50's broader point focuses on acceleration. Out of Jay's 25 Grammy wins, 21 came after 2004, aligning with his mogul era, family man image, and the cultural weight of that partnership. 50 ties this into his larger critique of the Grammys as an institution, arguing that it rewards positioning, image, and relationships as much as or more than raw impact. He keeps bringing up Tupac as the clearest example. No Grammy wins despite massive cultural influence. To 50, that's proof that the system doesn't always honor the rawest pioneers. And sure, critics point out that 50 has Grammys too. He has 3, so some say he's just bitter. But 50 doesn't frame it as personal complaining. He frames it as exposing how the industry actually works. In his view, relationships matter more than talent, and optics matter more than impact. And as usual, 50 doesn't stop at business or awards. He takes it personal through trolling. He's repeatedly joked that Jay-Z modeled his entire look and artistic persona after Jean-Michel Basquiat, suggesting that the art mogul presentation is more costume than authenticity. He's also taken shots at Jay's 444 album, calling it golf course music. In other words, music he believes is elitist and disconnected from the streets that originally built Jay's name. Over the years, he's clowned Jay's appearance with memes, captions, and one-liners. Anytime the internet gives him an opening, he takes it. That's why this rivalry never truly cools off. It's not just one angle, it's every angle. Music, money, image, legacy, awards, business power. 50 keeps it moving, and the audience treats it like a long-running Cold War where every move means something. The irony isn't lost on anyone watching from the outside. You've got 2 men who both came from nothing. One from the Marcy projects in Brooklyn, the other from Queens. Both built billion-dollar-level empires by any reasonable definition. These are two figures who, on paper, should respect each other's hustle because they're living proof that grinding can turn into ownership. But instead of mutual respect, they've spent nearly a quarter-century locked in a Cold War. It started as rap tension, turned into a business rivalry, and now lives fully in the social media era, where every small jab becomes a headline. And 50 has been consistent in how he frames it. He doesn't always act like he personally hates Jay as a person. He's even suggested they can be cordial in real life when they cross paths. But where 50 draws the line is how he believes Jay moves. In 50's eyes, Jay uses corporate power to settle personal issues, not public confrontation, but pressure through partnerships, positions, and influence. That's the core of 50's critique. He claims Jay stays protected behind business structures, avoids direct confrontation, and maintains a safe public image that keeps him insulated from consequences. Whether that's smart strategy or cowardice depends on who you ask. But 50's entire brand is built on being the opposite of that. 50 prefers conflict in the open. He likes discomfort. If someone steps to him, he believes there should be immediate consequences, not quiet moves behind closed doors. His persona is loud, confrontational, and unapologetic. In his framing, Jay is calculated where 50 is direct, private where 50 is public, diplomatic where 50 is aggressive. And one thing feels certain. This rivalry isn't going anywhere. As long as 50 has a platform to post and Jay has a corporate empire, the shots will keep coming. Sometimes subtle, sometimes explosive, but always feeding hip-hop's longest-running Cold War. What makes this moment hit harder is that all the storylines are colliding at once. You've got the Super Bowl claims, forcing people to question how gatekeeping really works at the highest level. You've got the Grammy debate, challenging what awards actually represent. You've got constant identity and image jabs, and you've got two self-made kings separated less by success and more by philosophy. Their styles of power couldn't be more different. 50 moves chest out, unafraid of consequences, posting through controversies that would send most celebrities straight to a publicist. Jay moves quietly, letting lawyers and corporate structures do the heavy lifting, rarely giving accusations the satisfaction of a public response. It's gladiator versus emperor, street corner versus boardroom, comment section versus contract clause. And maybe the most telling part is this. Despite the diss tracks, sales battles, business flexing, trolling, rumors, and alleged behind-the-scenes moves, neither man has destroyed the other. They're both still standing, each on top of his own empire. Both achieved things their younger selves couldn't have imagined. And whether they'd admit it or not, rivalries like this sharpen you. They make you hungrier, more strategic, more obsessed with staying ahead. At a certain point, it stops being about hate and starts being about definition. Each man exists partly in opposition to the other. Their names are permanently linked in the story of hip-hop's corporate era, an era where the weapons aren't just bars anymore. They're leverage, positioning, and influence. So the next time you see 50 throw another jab or hear another claim about someone being blocked behind the scenes, remember this: you're not watching simple beef. You're watching two kings fighting over the same throne with weapons that didn't even exist when they first picked up a mic. If you made it this far, make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Tell me whose side you're on, 50 or Jay, and what you think really happened behind the scenes. And if you want more stories like this, stay locked in. I'll catch you in the next one.